Trump administration's latest deportation efforts, including one that could enlist the IRS. Sources tell ABC the Internal Revenue Service is close to reaching a deal with Immigration and Customs Enforcement that would give ICE access to sensitive taxpayer data to confirm the names and addresses of suspected undocumented immigrants. Some career officials at the IRS say this is alarming, but that the deal is still being negotiated. This comes as the Trump administration continues their standoff with the federal judge over the deportation of hundreds of Venezuelans the administration says are gang members. The judge is determining if the deportations violated his order to stop those flights. Trump calling for the judge to be impeached, claiming that he's biased. So let's bring in Chief Washington Correspondent Jonathan Karl, who's hosting This Week, to break this all down for us. John, thanks for being with us. Before we get to your interview with Tom Homan, which is going to be a big one, we want to talk about Democrats because they are still searching for any kind of rallying cry against Trump. And you spoke with progressive Vermont Senator Bernie Sanders, who didn't mince words.
Absolutely. And I went out to Denver to talk to him, where he's been actually all out in the West this past several days, speaking to some huge rallies. He calls it the Fight Oligarchy Tour. And in Denver, there were at least 30,000 people who came. Bernie Sanders told me it was the largest crowd that he had ever spoken to. And when you think about the huge crowds that he saw when he ran for president, that's quite a statement. As we sat down for the interview, he's obviously quite critical of Donald Trump. That's an understatement. He thinks Trump's agenda needs to be stopped, but he was harshly critical of Democrats, of the Democratic Party, for not doing enough to stand up to Donald Trump. I want to play you just a little clip from this interview right now. So we're about 60 days into the Trump era, the second Trump era. How would you grade the Democratic Party's response?
Well, I would take us back even 2 years before that, before Trump was elected, and saying that it saddens me that when the Democrats had control of the Senate, they did virtually nothing for working people. And I have to say that I'm a member of the Democratic caucus as an independent, so I'm not going to lie to you and tell you otherwise.
Yeah.
And since then, do I think the Democrats have been effective in rallying the American people in stopping Trump's movement toward oligarchy and authoritarianism? No, I don't.
So a fascinating discussion. Interesting to hear Bernie Sanders' frustrations directed so much towards the Democratic Party. Of course, he is an independent, but he caucuses with Democrats in the Senate. He ran for the Democratic presidential nomination twice, so he's very much associated with the Democratic Party. But he thinks that the party, he told me, is as much captivated by what he calls the billionaire class as the Republicans are, and he sees this as a big problem.
Yeah, it's so interesting, especially to hear him, go directly at Democrats, John. And also You have an interview with White House border czar Tom Homan. What a time to talk to him as all of these deportations are just dominating the headlines. Talk to us about what he had to say.
Well, I really drilled down with him about the plane loads of these alleged gang members that have been sent to El Salvador. So these are members of a Venezuelan gang, or at least the administration says that they are members of a Venezuelan gang that have been sent to El Salvador, to a notorious prison. And many of the lawyers representing some of these people say that they are not actual gang members, and they have not had a chance to prove their innocence. And now they're in this prison where they can't even have any contact with their lawyers, and they have no rights whatsoever. So I got into it with him about what kind of due process they have, how they determined they were gang members. But the most interesting thing is the question of courts and whether or not the Trump administration is going to comply with court orders. As you know, a judge supervising these flights to El Salvador tried to stop those flights and has ordered that no further flights go until he has a further understanding about how this is working and basic questions about who is being deported and what their rights are. So I asked him if he would be complying with court orders. Interesting response. I think we have it. We don't have it. Okay, you have to take my word for it on this. Ultimately, Tom Homan is somebody who has said just a week ago, a little over a week ago, I don't care what judges think. So I asked him, what about court orders? Are you going to apply to court orders? And he says there will be no defiance of court orders. He did pause, but he said no. They will not defy actual orders from the court.
And John, before we let you go, just taking a wider lens in looking at the Trump administration as they are having these battles with the judicial system, does it seem like they've been prepared for the extent of it?
Well, look, they are facing legal challenges up and down the board of what the president has done over these first 60 or so days. And frankly, you can see in court that they are stretched thin. And the president sent a or the White House sent a memorandum to the Attorney General just on late Friday night that said that is directing the Attorney General to sanction attorneys and law firms that engage in what they call frivolous lawsuits. I mean, they're trying to turn down the legal challenges because I think that they are not fully prepared, although they certainly did anticipate that this battle would be waged in court.
And there is so much to continue watching. John Karl, we appreciate your time. And tune into This Week. You can see John's exclusive interview with Borders Czar Tom Homan and his exclusive with Senator Bernie Sanders.